You know, folks, the whole world is talking about Bitcoin. Want to know why? Maybe it's because Bitcoin rose in value over 150% last year, and this is just the beginning. Bitcoin is online investing that anyone can do. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org today. Take a master class. Download the Book of Bitcoin and take your investment portfolio to the next level. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org and discover all that a Bitcoin can do for you. That's bitcoinuniversity.org, bitcoinuniversity.org.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Now let's go to Judge Andrew Napolitano. He joins us now on Katz and Cosby. Judge Napolitano, we got Judge Weinberg, Ed Cox, and Governor David Paterson here in the studio with me. Let's first start with this big news, Judge Napolitano, that now the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, no surprise, will be replaced. You know, they always serve at the pleasure of the president. And Damian Williams, the guy who's been like fly on blank with Eric Adams, you know, he's been following him big time. Now there is a new one who's coming in. And Judge Weinberg, you know this new guy, right?
Judge, good to talk to you. It's Jay Clayton, who's the chairman of the SEC in the previous Trump administration. He's a first-rate lawyer, first-rate gentleman, impeccable credentials, a former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District, really first-rate. It's an excellent choice in my view.
So the big question is, how is that going to impact Eric Adams' case? Because now, because he seems like Eric Adams and Donald Trump are having a bit of a kumbaya.
Clayton will...
Let me say first that... after listening to all that talk about desserts, I'm starving.
We are too. We should have asked him. Governor Patterson, you should have asked him.
I rarely disagree with Judge Weinberg, and this is another case where I fully agree with him. This nominee is an absolute, right out of the textbook, classic person who should hold this job. He is not a political hack. He is a well-respected lawyer. He has much experience in the government. Now, with respect to Eric Adams, they're not going to roll over on this. They have what they believe is a substantial case. I think there's problems in the case, but they would lose their reputation as the foremost prosecutorial office in the country, which they've had since Rudy ran it, and maybe even since before Rudy ran it. If they were to roll over now just because there's a new U.S. attorney.
And let me say, though, one thing. It's not necessarily rolling over. What I'm saying is it looks at the timing on the Eric Adams case. And I'm not talking about the new person coming in. But he goes and complains about the migrant situation. Then they raid one of his campaign, chief's homes. What I'm saying is maybe there's some questions in the case that should have been looked at to begin with.
Okay, let's just say, Judge, 2 points. Number one, Jay Clayton will not roll over. He will not run a political contract. He will do it on the merits. There's no doubt in my mind. That's number one. And number two, to Rita's point, you have to really examine, and it's his obligation to examine the charges made and the evidence to support those charges to determine whether to continue the prosecution.
Well, correct. I know that the timing seems political, and I know that the DOJ can be filled with vengeance. But just because Eric Adams decided to spend all this money on a sanctuary city is not a basis for prosecuting him. They have to have real, solid, incontrovertible evidence that they believe will satisfy a jury beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty of his guilt. Now, I haven't seen the evidence. I don't know if you have, Judge Weinberg. The trial judge has apparently seen enough to know he's not going to throw the case out, even though Adams's people have prematurely asked that it be thrown out. Now, the trial date is right in the middle of the primary season. That's weird. They should have accelerated it or delayed it. How is the guy going to run for the Democratic nomination?
Great point.
While he's on trial.
Right.
In fact, the Adams lawyers have asked to move it up. Move it up so it doesn't impede.
Yeah.
And it should be granted. But honestly, in all fairness, what they really should do is they should put it off until the primary season is over.
Yeah.
Agreed. I fully agreed. Look, one of those charges, this supposedly getting the fire department to look the other way to fire inspections, which itself would be horrendous if it happened, in order for the Turkish embassy to build some high-rise. Even if that happened, it happened before he was the mayor. So how would he have been in a position to influence the fire department before he was in the mayor's office? It appears the Southern District had their dates wrong. Now I'm mouthing the argument that the mayor's lawyers made when they asked for a very, very early, quick, down and dirty dismissal. And the trial judge said, no, I don't know enough about the case yet. Renew this motion right before trial.
And Judge Napolitano, former Governor David Patterson has a question.
Judge, there are about 6 or 7 instances in that indictment where they basically created a new law. And that law is if you do someone anything that looks like a favor and they return it as late as, say, 10 years later, that could still be considered bribery. It would turn the whole political system upside down if they ruled on that.
Even if that favor is something as innocuous as upgrade me, and this is what happened.
On an airplane.
Right. I mean, come on, right.
Upgrade me from business to first class. These are not considered bribes. I don't know that this would even pass the smell test under the McDonald opinion by the Supreme Court.
I don't think it does.
It's got to be material, and he has to exercise the official levers of power. There must be a quid pro quo for the exercise of official levels of power. I don't even know if they've alleged that, much less can they prove it.
Right. By the way, we just have a few seconds left. I want to ask you, this is a kind of a loaded question here, but Judge Andrew Napolitano, we were talking earlier with Tom Homan, and you brought this up, Ed, which is a really important point, that they're now planned. This is the new border czar who's saying, we're going to go through these cities, these sanctuary cities, whether they like them or not. If there's some bad folks who are public safety threats or have prior convictions, those are the top priority. And whether they like it or not, we're going to fight them. What can they do legally? I mean, this is going to be a huge legal battle between the Trump administration and these Democratic mayors and governors.
So I like and respect Tom a lot. I have interviewed him many times. But calling him and making him a czar, my friends, is a toothless job. He doesn't have an office. He doesn't have a budget. He doesn't have people to execute his will. He would have to be the Secretary of Homeland Security to execute that will. All he can do is advise. Now, what can they do? If Trump decides that he wants to deport those who are here illegally and have committed crimes, he has the authority to do it. If state agencies refuse to help him, they have the authority under the Supreme Court's Prince decision to refuse to help. If state agencies actively resist the feds, then they themselves can be arrested. The example of this is a Massachusetts Superior Court judge who had an illegal immigrant in her courtroom who pleaded guilty to a crime. The feds were in the hallway ready to arrest him. She snuck him out of the courthouse using the. Did you know this story, Judge Weinberg? She snuck him out of the courthouse.
It was the Queens Supreme Court. She told the court officers.
This is in Massachusetts. He's talking about too.
No, but this happened in the Queens Supreme Court.
Well, they indicted the judge. The feds indicted the judge in Boston. I don't know what happened to the judge.
The judge in
what happened in Queens?
In Queens, she was removed from the bench.
Good, bravo. Well, Judge Napolitano, thank you. I'm glad to hear that at least they're trying to enforce the law, and those who are sneaking them out are put on the hot seat.
Where can I get those pastries before Governor Patterson eats them all up?
Oh my goodness! Well, let me tell you, before Governor Patterson eats them up, because he's a fine dining man. Holterman's Bakery is the name of the place in Staten Island. Everybody should go there, and we're going to have a date there, right? All of us are going to go there. Good, good. And Governor Patterson's treating.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004. 965-800-4NOW to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.